What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be covering 10 beginner tips for Star Wars Battlefront 2. Obviously there has been a huge influx of players to the game lately, and because of that I know a lot of those new players will be in need of some tips to keep up with us old sweatbag veterans, so there will be plenty more of these beginner guides on the way. Also, apologies for some of this being older footage. I've barely had any time to play lately with the second channel and a few assignments and stuff, so if some of this does look a little bit weird then that is likely because it is some older footage. But with that out of the way, let's get stuck right into it, and these are in no particular order. The first tip, which is going to be an absolute game changer for some of you, is that you want to change your stick layout in the settings menu. The default setting means that circle or B will be the button for rolling and dodging, while the R3 button will be used for your melee. When you change it to the alternate settings though, this will actually change those two buttons, meaning R3 will now be for rolling and dodging and circle or B will be for melee. Having control of your dodges all in that right stick makes it a much more fluid motion, meaning you don't have to take your hands off the stick and try and roll to safety, and I know it doesn't sound like much, but this is a genuine game changer. It will definitely feel weird at first, but trust me, if you do stick with it for a few days, you will definitely start to notice the improvements. Next up is a fairly obvious one, but this is to play the game in third person. Most people probably do this anyway, so it's probably not going to be a tip for everyone, but if you do play in first person, really all you're doing is limiting your field of view, pretty much meaning that you can't see as much surface area on your screen. The other great use for this is that you can actually see around corners if you go right to the corner of a wall and peek around it, so as immersive as first person is, it is 100% a better option to play in third person instead. Next up, when you're playing as a trooper or to be honest even a hero, if your entire squad is dead then you should always try and get to a safe spot and hide for a few seconds, because this allows your teammates to spawn on you if you're not in the line of fire. It might not really seem that useful to you at all, but if you happen to die and your teammates aren't near where you want to be because they couldn't spawn there, then you're going to have to go all the way back to the main spawn, which can obviously be very frustrating. Next up is one that I struggled with for a while when I started, and this is to not always aim down sights if you don't need to. In most shooters, ADSing is needed almost all the time, however in Battlefront all it does is actually zoom in. It doesn't reduce recoil or make the weapon more accurate or anything like that, so if an enemy is relatively close, definitely try hip firing to save yourself some frustration. Next up, and this is one of the most important tips in order to improve, but you should always focus on playing the objective whenever possible. Not only does it obviously help your team, but if you're new to the game, it's going to help you learn the maps much faster since you'll know where all the focal points of the map are, as well as how to get there. Not only that, but generally speaking there are more enemies around the objectives, meaning you can get more kills, and getting on an objective is also just one of the fastest ways to level up, so it has so many different positives. Next up is another one for the regular troopers, and this is that whenever you use a weapon with the ion shot attachment available, you should always try and use it. The ion shot allows you to take out shields, turrets and vehicles all about 3 to 4 times faster at the cost of a slightly lower damage. Now a while back I did a mythbusters on the ion shots, and it turns out that the damage drop off is almost not noticeable at all, adding maybe 1 to 2 extra shots at most, but what you gain from those ion shots is absolutely worth that very slight drop in damage. Now, speaking of taking out vehicles faster, another useful tip is that each vehicle pretty much has what you'd call a sweet spot, where shooting them in that area will do the same as landing a headshot on a regular enemy, dealing damage about twice as fast as normal. For most tanks there's a weak spot on the back of them, same goes for the ATSTs, and to be honest pretty much every vehicle's weak spot is on the back, so if you're having issues with vehicles, equip those ion shots, get behind them and you'll pretty much earn yourself a free kill. Next up is one that I see a lot of people doing backwards, and this is that you should actually buff yourself before going into a battle rather than healing yourself with it afterwards. Whether you're an officer or a certain reinforcement or a hero that has a health buff, you should definitely try and get into the habit of doing this as much as possible. Using it before a battle means any damage you take will be taken from that buffed health, whereas if you do it afterwards it's only temporary healing that health that you already lost, so think of the health buffs more like shields rather than actual health. Next up is a very important tip for the Battlefront franchise, and this is that you definitely need to get the hang of leading your shots. In most shooters, leading your shots is only really needed at long range, but in the Star Wars universe, obviously the blaster bolts move much slower than real bullets. Meaning if you're shooting at medium range and aim right at the enemy, the shots will generally miss them. Let's just say they're running from left to right across your screen, shoot just to the right of them and this will cause those blaster bolts to hit the target much more often. Now finally at number 10 on the list, which actually relates to the last one, you should always feather the trigger or tap the trigger rather than just holding it down and spraying. Obviously some situations are different, close quarters with the CR2 might actually be the opposite, but generally speaking your shots will be more accurate if you slow down a bit and tap the trigger. as it just reduces the recoil, making all of your shots much more likely to hit their targets. But that is going to do it for this one, guys. If you did enjoy the video, then make sure to leave a like down below to help support the channel, and be sure to subscribe with those notifications on so you don't miss out on any more Star Wars gaming videos or live streams. Thank you all so much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.